at this explainer that elaborates about India's expanding global connect that these experts were talking about and the overall impact of the Prime Minister Modi's international visits, particularly to these 5 countries.
Where we will talk about India's expanding global connect and its impact. Well, over the last 12 years, Prime Minister Modi-led government has transformed India's foreign policy from non-alignment to multi-alignment, establishing the country as a crucial global bridge. And this period has been characterized by economic diplomacy, stronger strategic posture in the Indo-Pacific, and a clear leadership role within the global south. Let's now take a look at key important pillars of India's global expansion, and to begin with, economic diplomacy and trade. Now, international expansion has been heavily linked to domestic economic goals under Atmanirbhar Bharat, or Self-Reliant India and Make in India initiative. Another very crucial pillar is FTAs and Economic Pact, where the government has pursued comprehensive trade and economic agreements, securing landmark deals like the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement with the UAE and establishing significant trade works with the UK and EFTA nations, and specifically closing 9 FTAs in 6 years under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The third important pillar is Global South advocacy. Now, through platforms like the World Government Summit, G7, and specifically BRICS. India is currently the chair of BRICS and recently concluded the BRICS foreign ministers meeting also that aimed toward building for resilience, innovation, cooperation and sustainability, and of course achieving a more stable, equitable and inclusive international order. Moving on, another important key pillar is FDI inflow, the foreign direct investment. Policy liberalizations and improvements in the ease of doing business have driven historic foreign direct investments as well. Moving on to the next important key pillar is export growth. When we talk about it, India's total exports of goods and services have expanded substantially, with service exports in particular more than doubling over the special decade, the decade that has crossed the 12-year mark now. Another very important key pillar is technology and digital diplomacy. Now, the expansion is increasingly driven by the export of India's digital public infrastructure, the DPI, and particularly its Unified Payment Interface System, or the UPI. Countries across Asia and Middle East and Europe have adopted or partnered with India to integrate similar digital payment and identity frameworks. The government has also expanded global innovation collaborations such as the Bharat Innovates platform to link deep tech startups and research institutions with international investors and market. Now, the 7th important pillar is defense exports and regional security. Moving from being the world's primary arms importer, India has actively expanded its international defense footprint. Defense exports have soared, growing from roughly 1,940 crore rupees in 2014-15 to over 23,600 crore rupees as India supplies hardware, offshore patrol vessels and systems such as the BrahMos missile to the partner nations. The country has focused heavily on neighborhood-first policies and capacity building for Indian Ocean states to counter regional maritime security challenges. Another important pillar is global coalitions. Now, rather than traditional geopolitical alliances, India leveraged important forums to champion climate action, renewable energy and ecological diplomacy on the world stage. And these include initiatives like International Solar Alliance, which is a coalition of over 120 countries driving energy transition and scaling solar power in the global south. Another one is International Big Cat Alliance. Now, it is a treaty-based intergovernmental organization launched to secure the future of 7 big cats: tiger, lion, leopard, snow leopard, cheetah, jaguar and puma. And India acts as the host country for the Global Secretariat. Another very important coalition is Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, or the CDRI. And India proposed and championed the CDRI. New Delhi serves as the secretariat and provides financial contribution to support partner nations, especially small island developing states, in mitigating climate vulnerabilities. Another very important alliance is Global Biofuel Alliance, a forum established by India alongside the USA and Brazil in the year 2023 to promote the development and adoption of sustainable biofuels and set global standards. Well, this is all about how India has expanded its global footprint. And now let's talk about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent international visit and the kind of impact it will have. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's diplomatic tours and international visits actively strengthen India's global expansion by securing multi-billion-dollar economic partnerships, diversifying energy corridors, and also forging advanced technology and semiconductor alliances. And these strategic engagements elevate India's geopolitical influence and position the nation as a central pillar in the global supply chain. The key pillars include strategic and economic partnership, energy security and supply chains, technology and green growth, defense and strategic alliances, and of course, diaspora engagement. Now, to begin with strategic and economic partnership, what sort of impact are we seeing there? Well, these visits finalize agreements that strengthen bilateral trade framework, reducing reliance on traditional Western-centric supply chains. Another very important pillar of the impact is energy security and supply chains. Addressing global supply chain disruptions and of course the West Asia crisis, recent tours have heavily prioritized energy security. So high-profile diplomatic discussions secure long-term crude oil and LPG supply lines and expand India's strategic petroleum reserves to cushion against global fuel shock. The third important pillar and the impact is on the sector of technology and green growth. Well, state visits to European and Nordic nations such as Netherlands, Sweden and Norway, they focus on securing partnerships in green technology, artificial intelligence and semiconductor industry. And this collaborative push helps drive India's economic and domestic tech and innovation goals. Another very important key pillar and the impact of the international visit is defense and strategic alliances. Well, bilateral talks with global powers in Europe and the Gulf continue to yield critical frameworks for maritime security, defense industrial collaboration and counter-terrorism, solidifying India's role as a major geopolitical force. And the last key important pillar and the impact of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to international countries is the diaspora engagement. The administration has utilized the global Indian diaspora as a strategic asset. So high-profile events across the US, UK, Australia and the Middle East have been used to build political goodwill and bolster bilateral trade and ties and the friendship Prime Minister Narendra Modi and India shares with its partner countries with the neighborhood first policy is being seen, witnessed and can be heard at the global platform, because it is always said that when India speaks, the world listens. And that's all in this special segment. Thank you so much for joining us.